Hey, here's Tino, Purple Disco Machine, and you're listening to the House Culture Podcast.
House Culture.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of Season 3 of the House Culture Podcast, hosted as ever by me, the managing editor at House Culture, Matt Rouse. Yes, you heard it right. We're bringing our third season to a close with this episode, which is possibly the biggest one of the lot from 2021. We will be back in the new year, so don't cancel your subscription just yet, because the conversations will be as exciting and illuminating as you're used to. So we have some stellar names already lined up for season 4. Watch this space. But before we say our goodbyes from this year, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to you, the listener. First of all, thanks for tuning in, but also for all of the messages of support and general positive vibes we've received from releasing these podcasts. It is honestly what makes it all worthwhile, especially during the difficult period we've all had. If you're a new listener and you're wondering what I am talking about, we are House Culture, a collective of house music fans who have come together through our mutual love of the beat to celebrate the spirit of house music. If you haven't already, come and party with us on Instagram at houseculturenet, and also make sure you dig through what is now a substantial back catalogue of podcast episodes that feature conversations with legends such as Fatboy Slim and David Morales, leaders of the new school like Alan Fitzpatrick and Medusa, industry scenesters like Pike's Hotel creative director Dawn Hindle and Kiss FM founder Gordon Mack, and some of the hardest working people in the business, like the man who brought dance music to Glastonbury, Malcolm Haynes, or the percussion sensation that is Bongo Ben. Honestly, if you have any interest in the world of dance music, I guarantee you will love the chat we have with our handpicked guests. So, let's get on with this episode, shall we? It's a big one, as I chat to a DJ and producer who, with the release of his brand new album Exotica, is arguably the biggest name in dance music right now. Known to his friends as Tino, but to the rest of the world, he is Purple Disco Machine. In our chat, you'll hear how, as a young music lover growing up in East Germany, Tino discovered just how much music was out there after the Berlin Wall came down.
It was the first time we drove to the west part of Germany, and there were walls full of CDs and vinyls, and I've never seen things like this before. And it was just music everywhere, and it was like I'm in heaven.
How his first creation under the Purple Disco Machine name put him on the map.
I started Purple Disco Machine. It was just me making music, and the music I really loved. I started with the My House song. I was listening to William Bell Private Number for years, and I always said, I feel this could be something for the dance floors. I decided to send this one to labels, and then they signed it. And after the release, my whole life changed.
And he gives us his thoughts on what binds us all together in this wonderful scene of ours.
The music is what brings everyone together. Black and white, all kinds of religion. On the dance floor, no one cares who the guy next to you is. We share one passion for music, and everyone is equal. So this is also something what makes me happy every week, and this is something which connects everyone.
I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. This is Purple Disco Machine.
House Culture.
Hi Tino, thanks so much for joining us on the House Culture Podcast. You're well known by alter ego Purple Disco Machine, an in-demand DJ who currently sits at number 2 in the Beatport all-time top 100 artist list. You've remixed people as diverse as Lady Gaga, Foles, Calvin Harris and Elton John, and you're celebrating the release of your second album called Exotica. However, we always like to go back and start at the very beginning with our guests. Can you tell us what it was like growing up in Dresden, in what was East Germany at the time, and how you discovered music there?
So first of all, hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here now. And how everything started, it was like, definitely my parents had a big influence of not my musical taste or my love for electronic music, but just how I became obsessed from music at all. So they had kind of a bigger record collection. My father was really into music. both of my parents. They were listening to music all the time. And I grew up in the east part of Germany. So it was a bit different because most of the music for some political issues were banned by the government. So it wasn't just, my parents weren't allowed to listen to all kinds of music. So they couldn't experience all these great songs in the 70s, kind of disco funk from America. But they were more into rock, East German rock. But my father took a lot of effort to go to Czech or Hungary, to go to black markets to get the vinyls there. So he already had this kind of passion for music I have now. So I got it from them. And just remember every day on the radio or every day on the turntable, we listened to music, and it was like music was just all around. And for me, I think they took me to concerts after the wall fall and 90 or 89. So they took me to a few concerts. I think my first big concert was, I think I was 13 or 14, so it must be 92, 93, was Phil Collins. And I was, at that time, I was a huge Phil Collins fan. So he was one of my biggest idols at that time. And I was just following Genesis and Phil Collins. I was listening and collecting everything he'd released. So I just loved the first concert. It was also my first contact to live music, to a band, and to this kind of mood and energy on a live concert. So from that day on, I knew, okay, I will spend all my money on buying CDs and vinyls, and was just obsessed with music in generally.
And you mentioned like your father used to travel to Czechoslovakia to pick up music as well. I mean, how was that as a change for you as a young guy growing up? What was that point where you found you could buy your own music, and what was that like, kind of discovering, record stores after the wall came down and things like that? What was the difference there? Was there a real marked change?
To be honest, I just actually can't remember how it was before, because after the wall came down, I was 9. So I don't know how it was to not be able to travel, or I actually had a good time. So my first 10 years, and never felt I'm limited or I can't do things. So, but for my parents, what's different. So especially if you love music and then you realize, okay, most of the music you're not allowed to listen to, or not on the radios, you will never see artists performing, artists you really like. Guys like Peter Gabriel or Pink Floyd. My father was really into it. So in the east part of Germany, I wasn't just able to see one of those guys because they never came to the DDR to perform, or it was also not possible to get out to see them somewhere else. But I think after the war, there's just one story I remember was also like 1991 or 2. It was the first time we drove to the west part of Germany, and we drove, I think, towards Bavaria, and I think it was Munich or Bayreuth or a city like this. And I went with my parents and my sister for the first time in a music market. It was called Mediamarkt, and there were walls full of CDs and vinyls, and I've never seen things like this before, and it was just music everywhere. And it was like I felt I'm in heaven. So, and then I remember my parents or my father said, okay, you get 10 euros and you can buy one single. And I was just running around, and I got an hour, and I was just running around, and I had no idea what to buy, because I mean there was so much music from artists I've never heard before. And I knew my father bought a CD player on that day, and said, okay, everyone can buy a CD. I will sort out the CD player. And that was the first time ever I feel like, okay, now I have access to all kinds of music, actually literally to everything. And it was quite a important day for me.
Can you remember what you bought, what it was that you spent that precious money on?
I think I bought Inner Circle with Sweat.
Okay.
Don't ask me why, but I think it must be 1993 or 4, I don't know.
It was
but
a big tune
song
at the time.
I mean, in Germany, yes. And this song was on the radios all the time, and I just loved this kind of summer vibe, this positive beach vibe, and I was really into it. And for me, as a guy who've never seen a beach or never went to one, I was like, this must be the paradise. And I tried to get at least a piece of this kind of beach feeling back home.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you could probably look back on that now, and that's, technically almost influenced you might say, without even knowing it or realizing it.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't the record what influenced me a lot, but I think I was a bit like under pressure from timing, and and this is the only record I knew and I could afford for 10 euros. So I was like, okay, I think I'm happy with this one. And then after a few years later, I think another big influence for me is definitely Daft Punk. And I think it was like 1996. It was a few years later. Then I was at school and I started we started throwing school parties. This typical in the basement, we were throwing school parties, and with a friend of mine, he already used to be a DJ, so he had turntables and everything, and he played music, and I just started pretending to be a DJ and just trying to do my thing. And so this was my, I would say, second or third contact to the music professional life. And then I just remember it was 96. Then one day he played us Daft Punk, the Homework album.
Yeah.
And this day, especially this record, changed my whole life. So I think we played this song for like the whole night. Everyone was quite annoyed because we played the same songs again and again. It was like a school party with different classes, and we played the same songs and again. But I was just so in love with those kind of music because I was really into disco and funk already, but in the original stuff. But Daft Punk did, for the first time, they showed me how to move on with this kind of disco music to a totally different level. So they were transporting the music to another level. They this kind of sampling and filtering and was completely new for me. And I, from that day on, I knew, okay, I think I want to produce music and I want to do exactly this. The music I love, just in a new way, just sampling stuff, just in a new, more groovy, more funky, more dance floor playable way.
Amazing. I mean, and that album is completely seminal. It's influence. We've talked to quite a few people on this podcast, and they can pinpoint that album as having a big light bulb, moment change for them in their kind of mentality about looking and listening to dance music. I mean, when you were playing that and seeing people, they might have got annoyed, but were people reacting to it in terms of you were making them move with this music, with playing them? Was that kind of a thing that you saw and thought, hang on, I can, I want to get some decks and become a DJ and move people in this way? Or did that naturally kind of happen anyway?
I was actually never obsessed from playing in front of people. So I think even I was scared about, because I'm at school. I'm still more the kind of introvert guy, and it always scared me to think about playing in front of real people. So for me, the goal was just to learn the technical, the handcraft of being a DJ. So I was never obsessed with getting the fame or staying in front of the crowd and see the crowd moving or so. I was more into, I really enjoyed the music, and I was obsessed watching DJs playing on the television. It was, I think, mid-90s was the time when we had on channels like MTV or Viva, we had a lot of music where DJs just played, and they sometimes they even tried to explain the technical skills and everything. So I used this just to start with something, and I spent all my money, and I was saving money for a long time, and then I bought my first turntable. At that time, I couldn't afford a proper one, so I just bought, I think, a belt-driven one.
Yeah.
Which is quite pain in the ass. So I just can't recommend starting with this. But in the beginning, I didn't have that much money. I had one belt-driven turntable and one CD player. So and then a channel mixer. That's how everything started. And in the beginning, I was really frustrated because playing on a belt rhythm is like I said, it's just painting the ass.
Yeah.
But afterwards, as I got my first, as I played my first gig, and then suddenly I had two techniques in front of me, it was like, oh, it's so easy. It's super easy. Everything is working so and it's fading well, and it was like. It's a totally different level. So from that day on, I realized I think it was the best trainee ever to start on a belt rhythm. Now I can play on every rubbish turntable. I think I can do it now.
Absolutely, I completely feel your pain about learning on a belt drive turntable. Like that's exactly how I started, and yeah, like that step up when you play somewhere on Technics, and you're like, wow, this is so much easier. Everything's, just gliding so much better. It's I'm not having to push things or like, it's such a difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, what was your kind of your early clubbing days like? How did you discover the clubbing scene in Germany, and what was that like?
I mean, Germany was. I'm like I said, I'm born and raised in Dresden. Dresden is like 1.5, 2 hours from Berlin. So that means my city was completely influenced by Berlin. So all the DJs who played in Berlin came to Dresden to play here. Loads of DJs and friends I knew from the first days on moved to Berlin just to become big DJs there. Most of them failed and came back after a few years. But the problem is that Dresden was all about techno, minimal, and there was just a really, really small house scene. And in the beginning, because of my classmates, also more into techno, I was a big fan of Sven Väth. So I was a kind of fanboy. So I was traveling through Germany to see him playing. I think I was never really into the music he played, but he was for me and is still one of the best DJs in terms of telling a story in his DJ sets, how going up and down to build a dramaturgy and also selecting music and DJ skills. And so he's one of the best guys in this kind of business, and he's having charisma, and he's this kind of guy. So I think I just was obsessed of him just because of his technical skills, and I wasn't the guy who stands in the first row dancing and screaming. I was always the nerdy guy staying in the corner and watching him and writing down notes, what he's doing and songs. So that's, I think for me was this time was more like to get the experience how this business works, how it is, how he behaves in front of a dance floor, how he's reacting to the crowd, how is he trying to read the crowd. So I was more into like this, and then after a while, a house disco, how I think was like 2000. A club who just played house music opened its doors. It was called German Club, and it was the first time that on a musical side I feel okay, this is exactly my thing. And this is also a reason why I called my new album Exotica, because being surrounded from friends who are into techno, and literally the whole city is into techno and minimal and everything, I felt really exotic to love disco and house, because none of my friends were into this kind of music. So I mean, none of the friends I knew at that time, of course, through the new club, I got new friends or made new friends. But at that time, most of my friends were just into techno, and I felt really exotic. Living in a city with no passion for house music. But it changed in the beginning of the noughties. The club called German Club opened its doors, and they throw parties every 2 weeks. And it was a bit like, I think the owner was really obsessed from Studio 54, was this kind of vibe. So he spent a lot of money and effort in decoration, in dancers, in the whole thing. He refurbished the venue every 2 weeks. So it was, the DJ booth was on a different place every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks you entered the venue, it was a totally new vibe, and the decoration was different, and the music, and he booked DJs like Tyree Cooper, or those guys were really heroes at that time, or Kenny Dope, or those guys. So, and it was my first contact with proper house music. And a guy, the resident of the club, we became friends. So we're still really a good friends.
Yeah.
So I think I appreciate that he did a lot for the city. So, and it was a totally new way to experience music for me.
Yeah, and yeah, like you say, if it's to really invest in this club and like completely change it every few weeks, and for essentially what, like you said, was not necessarily the big sound of that time, that shows real kind of commitment to that kind of sound. I mean, were you going there and were you producing tracks at this point as well? Were you wanting to get things played there, or perform there, or whatever? What was the kind of next stage for you?
No, I just started, so I was on a really, really low level, and I have never had the idea to show the songs or to play the songs to someone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't connected to them, so it was so far away. I was just a nerdy guy who went to the club mostly by my own, because most of my friends didn't like the music, and so just to listen to the music and to get inspired. And then I went back home and tried to do the same. I produced music on I started with Fruity Loops, and it was on a really low level. I think I started in the end of 90s, actually at the same time as I started training my DJ skills. So I was focused on both. So there were never a time I say, okay, I was just a DJ, I was just a producer. I started more or less at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did this kind of, I sampled my favorite disco songs in a really, really bad way. But at that time, I was so far away to become a DJ or a professional musician or stuff like this. So I was just a nerdy guy. It took me a few more years. But then I think I trained my skills and I got better and better. And then I recorded mixtapes. I think classical thing. I recorded mixtapes. I burned mix CDs, and then I gave the CDs to all the promoters in the city, just to get the opportunity to get booked or something. And then I had the luck I knew there is like 500 meters from my house, or my parents' house where I used to live. I heard rumors that a club will open, and I just went to the guys, and they were not really into music. They had no idea. They were really into just opening a club, but they had no idea what kind of music they want to play. And I thought, okay, this could be my chance. I gave them the mixtapes, and I think I was the first guy who contacted them, and they say, yeah, he seems to be a nice guy. And I said, I mean, if you hire me as a DJ, I can help you building the club. I can work. You don't need to pay me. I just want to make this happen. And then we were building the club, and for like 2 or 3 months, and then I got a residency job, and this is how everything started. Was more or less a few years later as the German club opened, and I knew what kind of music I want to play, and this was the perfect way for me to get the chance to book the DJs who played in other venues in my hometown.
Yeah.
And then we did like swaps. Okay, I booked them to play in the club where I was the resident, and then they booked me to other clubs. So this is how we became from colleagues to friends and stuff like this. So this was my first contact in the music scene, in the music business in my hometown.
Awesome. And it sounds like a great kind of like semi-big break in that sense. I mean, you have described yourself as an introvert, a nerdy guy. I mean, was it difficult to be like putting yourself out there and, knocking on these doors and saying, hey man, you need to book me. Here's my mix CD. Did you find that difficult in any way?
It took me so long. I think it was actually a friend who forced me and said, okay, I come with you. Don't worry. If they say no, that it is what it is, and we go to the next one. Yeah. But I will come with you. I think alone, I would never go alone to this. That's what I said. So if you come with me, everything is fine. You do the talking. I just stay there, smile, and trying to be friendly and smart and give them. And but I mean, it was a difficult. I think at that time I already, from the technical skills, I was pretty good. I would say I was just without any experience technical skills say nothing if you don't have any experience how to react to a crowd, how to read a crowd. That's what I learned over the years when I had when I was the resident. So I had kind of 3-4 different residencies in my hometown. Then the clubs got bigger and bigger, and then I was playing like every Friday 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And this was, I think, for me, the most gainful time in terms of reading crowds, know how to start. I think it's the hardest job on a night is the resident job, because now for me as a headliner, entering the club, and you play peak time, everyone is vibing already, you play 2 hours or 1.5 hours, everyone's just waiting for your music, is so easy. But building up a night from the scratch, from nothing, is so difficult. And this was I think was the most important time for me as a DJ.
Yeah, and we've spoken to so many DJs on this as well about that importance of a resident and being able to warm up and being able to read the room. Like, people are going to fail if it's your first gig and you're playing in a club and you're playing the warm-up slot. 9 times out of 10 you would be if you're a new DJ and you just come in and start banging it out and everyone walks in the room is like, what the hell is going on? To have that kind of finesse and able to get that crowd moving and vibing properly is a real art form, definitely.
It's totally different. That's what I unfortunately I miss on most of the DJs. Oh, I mean, what means DJs? So they just, I mean, it's another generation. They grew up on a different time. So it's like it's a totally different level. But I'm happy that I could experience those years.
No, and it shows, it's to be able to have that time invested in that art form, it really benefits you in your later career, like you're already saying. I want to talk about your productions and, looking back at them. I mean, for us, it's really, Critical Mass started from kind of My House onwards. I mean, in 2013, it's a massive breakthrough single. It samples Judy Clay and William Bell's 1968 Stax single Private Number. I mean, what was your relationship with that track before you decided to take it on board and sample it? Was it something that you're already a fan of, or something you just discovered, or how did that come about?
I started Purple Disco Machine in 2009 or 10, I think. And before I used to DJ under Stereo Funk. It's a different or another project name, and I already produced albums and loads of ghost producing jobs. So the reason why I stopped the project was that I think it was end of the noughties, so like 2008-9, everything went more in this EDM direction. House music was dead. So I had no shows. With Stereo Funk, I made more or less the same kind of music, maybe more electronic, more kind of Justice at banger vibe. But it was also disco influenced, funky, groovy, same tempo. But yeah, end of noughties, house music was dead. So every house music DJ was struggling. I don't had any shows. I got booked more and more on EDM festivals, and it was just EDM or minimal techno and stuff like this. And I was so annoyed from this EDM music. I said, and then my agency said, you need to play more this kind of music if you want. And I said, okay, I'm gonna stop this. Then I stopped the old project because I wasn't just happy anymore. Every week I said, what the fuck I'm doing here? So it's not why I started making music. I ended up playing on EDM festivals, music I just didn't like, just to pay the bills. And I said, okay, that's not the reason why I started. So I have to stop here. And luckily I had on as kind of a side business, I produced advertising, spots for radio and television. I did I took ghost producing job for pop guys, and I produced music for other people. And I used to be a teacher in an elementary school. So to learn them getting into computer stuff and IT stuff, just the basics. So it was, I mean, this paid my bills, and it was like a 9-to-5 job to go to school and teach a few things, and then go to the studio afterwards and make some music just for me. And then I started Purple Disco Machine without any pressure. I had no contracts with labels, or it was just me making music, and the music I really loved. And I just don't care if someone else is playing the music, if it gets signed or not, if I get bookings through the music. I just made the music, and that's why I started with this kind of really deep house music on more down tempo stuff. And this is actually also when I came up with the idea of the My House song. I was listening to William Bell, to the album, and to the song Private Number for years. So, and I always said this, I think there was like Nightmares on Wax sampled the same sample, and I was pretty obsessed with just with the sample. But I said the Nightmares on Wax one was more chilled, and I thought I feel this could be something for the dance floors, and I made myself a version just as a mashup, and I played it. From I got more and more shows. I played in the beginning of Purple Disco Machine, more kind of in the afternoon, kind of beach parties, sunset parties, chilled vibes. And I started playing this song, and then I realized this one is working really well on the dance floors. It's a nice groove. It fits to the time. Because it was a bit deep, and this kind of deep house music came up, and it was at the right time. And then, I decided to send this one to labels, and I sent it to Andre Chrome, to Off Recordings, and he was instantly just said, okay, I don't know who you are, but it sounds amazing. I mean, I never told them the project name before, so I was just trying to starting from scratch, from nothing. So I don't wanted to connect the new music with the old project. And so that's why I never told him what kind of music I made and who I am. So I just sent them the track, and they really liked it. And then they signed it. And after the release, my whole life changed. Literally. I think the song got released on a Friday, and I was just sitting in front of my computer. And after the release on a Friday, I got on the same day 2 booking requests. I think one from Mexico and one from the UK somewhere. And I've never played. I mean, I played before with the old project. I played in Europe a few gigs, and then getting a request from Mexico out of the blue. I said, what? And then we heard your song and we're so in love. We need to book you. I mean, this song got just released today. And then every day we got more and more requests, and I got a new agent, and it was like it changed so quickly, and it was hard. And the most difficult thing was, at that time I got my first, so my daughter was born, like I think she was 5 or 6 months at that time. And there was another reason why I decided to stop the old project. Just my life will change now. I become a father. I think I need to, I'm responsible not just for me, I'm also responsible for my baby and for my wife and everything. So I need to make sure that I have a proper salary every month. So that's why I stopped the music thing, because it was just unreliable, and no one knew what happened. So being at home with a little family and realizing, okay, I think now everything is going crazy. And my wife, in the beginning, she was like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, just go and I just wait for you. But I think she never realized, and on that moment, what it means to let me go.
Yeah, I mean, to be a touring DJ with a family as well, it must be really, really hard work, always out and, in far-flung places, hotels, airports, all those types of things. Yeah, it must be quite...
Definitely. So I really appreciate. So my wife, we are still married. We are still, happy. So it's like, I think for her, it was so tough we now have 2 kids, and it was being at home with the kids, mostly alone, and with me on tour must be so tough. I was just I think last year during the lockdown, I spent my first weekend alone with the kids, and I was so exhausted. I called her on Sunday. It's just, please come back. I'm so exhausted. They driving me crazy, the kids. And this was 1 week, and there was literally 2 days. And she was, she's just had a weekend off with her friends. And so I was like, how you survive weekends like this? And this actually every weekend. So I have no idea. So I'm just so happy that she's she's following this path with me.
That's great. I mean, yeah, to have that support is essential. Yeah, and to understand how difficult it is as well must be much better for her mental health as well, I suppose. I mean, just to stay on onto the My House, and I mean that track as well. Like in 2017, Devil in Me, you revisited that groove, and you used one of the voices of house music, Dwayne Harden. I mean, what was the thinking behind that update, and what was it like working with Dwayne, who's just incredible?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually an accident. So it's like the music business is working sometimes. So in 2013, My House became a big underground hit. I think at that time was the most selling song on Beatport.
Mm-hmm.
There were no camel fat at that time, so I was the one leading the leading the charts. And so yeah, so it was like, okay, then the song got signed by a major label,
Mm-hmm.
and they decide, okay, I think it's as an instrumental, it's not strong enough. Let's do let's work on the top line.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, I would like to go in this direction with house guys like Dwayne Harden, or because I was really into, like I mentioned before, I was really into filter house, French house, and 90s, 2000 noughties stuff. So they came up with Dwayne Harden and Joe Killing, and I said, oh my God, this is so good. I was a bit concerned about or worried about in the beginning, because most of the songs who started as instrumentals and became big hits with top lines, in my opinion, were just rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
And because if an original song is good and then you add just a generic top line, it never sounds like, okay, this is the right match.
Yeah.
But as I got the first demo from Joe Killington, I thought, oh my God, it feels like we wrote the song in a studio together. So it was the right fit for the song. It wasn't too much. It was enough soul and funk and groove. So it was just perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, the major label never released it. So they signed it in 2013 and they never released it.
Oh, no way.
And after a couple of years, like the contract says, we got the rights back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we decided to put this on the album and to release this as the first single for my first album, Exotica, Soul Magic, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it took another 4 years to release the song.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the end, I think this song is one of the key songs, or one of the bones of my career, because it started with My House. It opened a lot of doors, and then on another level, on a more commercial level, it opened again another doors 5-6 years later with Devil in Me.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And you mentioned your first album there as well. In terms of that and your latest release, Exotica. Yeah, when you're putting together an album, and it's quite difficult for house music and dance music to exist in album format sometimes. When you're approaching something like that, do you think I'm just going to put a collection of singles together and release it, or do you approach it like I want to put together like a theme and have something that's connected as a whole?
Since I was young, I was really obsessed with albums, so I spent all my money in buying album or long players back in the days. So every Friday, or was Monday morning, I went to the music store and went through the new albums. And so for me, an album was the kind of a masterpiece of an artist. I mean, you can release singles and collaborations, but the album is next level. So it's I always knew I want to make an album. I'm not the guy who's just releasing club songs. I want to put out an album just to be more, with an album you can be more eclectic, you can look more left and right, you don't need to focus on clubs, on dance floors, or on radios. So I think the approach for me working on the album was, on the first album, was like to show myself more as a musician and not just as an artist, as a DJ, because in this entertainment business, most of the DJs are just DJs having ghost producers and stuff like this. And I always was really, really into showing everyone, okay, I'm not just a DJ, I'm also a musician, and I can produce more down-tempo songs, more pop songs, and not just the same club tune again and again. I started working on my first album, I think in 2014, 15. Like you said, I was collecting songs, I was collecting ideas, but then the whole album thing got a bit more serious. I got signed by Sweat It Out. And so we decided to put out an album. And this was, okay, now I have like a deadline, a delivery date, and okay, now I have a reason to do something, to work on an album, to go to the studio and just work on something. And sometimes mostly I need deadlines just to motivate myself to say, okay, I need to finish this one. So I'm actually quite good in finishing songs. I'm quite quick. But if you work on so many different demos, and then before you open an old demo to trying to work again, you say, okay, let's do something new. But this was a time I said, okay, I need to finish the songs I have already and want to make an album. And it was a really good time. And it sounds, the sound of Soulmatic, of course, is a bit different. To now. It's kind of an evolution now to the new sound, but it was still Purple Disco Machine. It was still me, and I still play a few songs in my sets.
Cool. And that was going to be my next question. Like, how is your sound? Would you describe it? How has it evolved from the first album to this new album that's out? Is it just a natural evolution, or have you consciously tried to inject some kind of different flavors into this new release?
No, it's actually a natural thing. We always like to say it's not a revolution, it's an evolution. So it's like, I think the first album I was really into end of 70s funk, original, organic vibes, soul funk, disco. And the second one now, or the last 3-4 years, I moved more to, I would say, Italo disco, mid 80s, electro, funk, kind of. I mean, I was always influenced by guys like such as Giorgio Moroder, Patrick Corley. Italo disco was huge in Germany. I think also in East Germany. I think maybe the reason why it wasn't political enough to cause any problems. That's why Italo disco and disco in generally was huge in East part of Germany. That's the music I grew up with. So and I'm still in love with Italo disco, with Kano, with Giorgio Moroder, with those guys. And as the stages got bigger, my sound went also more to this kind of 4 to the floor, more electronic and less organic sound. And I started, I think it's also the reason why I started collecting vintage synths, original synths, and I was playing around with those synths, and now I work compared to the first album, I would say 80% with analog synths. And that's why maybe also the sound has changed a bit. So I think there was a natural evolution of the sound.
And it's great you're using that original, vintage equipment and, giving it that new life and that different, you can really tell that it's harking back to that era of, those classics like Giorgio Moroder and those kind of people. It's really good sound. I mean, how did the album come together? Obviously, we've had lockdown and pandemic and everything like that. Did you have a lot of it in place before all of this happened, or did lockdown change any of your working practices in terms of recording and creating?
Yeah, I had actually the complete idea to finish my album in the beginning of last year. So I took January, February last year off, and the plan was to finish the album till to beginning of last year. So I had my deadline for myself was more till March 2020 I have to finish the album. But in March everything changed. So I didn't went back on tour like planned. So, and I realized, I think it seems so I've now way more time to spend in the studio. And the first lockdown started in March. Suddenly my life changed from being on tour to 9 to 5 job being in a studio every day. And I realized, okay, I think I should refurbish my demos. I think I should work on new demos. I started reaching out to musicians I really liked, and as I asked, I mean, I knew everyone's at home, so everyone's in the same situation. Before, working with other musicians was so complicated because everyone was on tour. To find the time to work together, to sit together in the studio, or even to work remotely was so tough. But after we all were in the same situation, everyone was stuck at home and in lockdown. I reached out to musicians I had in mind I wanted to work with on the album, and then I've wrote new songs. And for example, Matt Johnson from Jamiroquai, from the band, is a big part of the album. He helped me writing on a few songs, or on actually most of the songs. Then Derek McKenzie, the drummer from Jamiroquai, played drums on a few songs. So there were guys I always wanted to work with them, because in 2017 I was on tour with Jamiroquai, and we became, I mean, not friends, but we were in contact all the time. We said, okay, we have to do something together one time. And then, I reached out to them, and they just did a brilliant job. And then friends of mine. And so it was a good time to work with other musicians remotely, to contact singers, songwriters, to write on new songs. So I spent a lot of time, especially last year, working on the album in the studio. I would say 50% of the album was finished before or pre-COVID, and the rest, half of the album, was made during the lockdown.
Amazing. And how did you find it difficult at all? We've spoken to a few people that found it difficult to road test things or understand how good things were without necessarily an audience. You know, did you fall into that camp, or were you just happy with what you're producing? Just more broadly as well, how do you road test new material?
I'm definitely, so when I work on club tunes, I mean, I come from the DJ perspective. So my approach to make music is what song I would play as a DJ. So this is my approach. So every time when I work on new songs on club tunes, I think just as a DJ. I arrange songs how I would play it as a DJ, with an intro and an outro and then a bridge and middle eight and stuff like this. So I never thought of let's do a pop song and we need verse one then. So I never thought in those kind of structures. I always think as a DJ. Then the songs I produced for the clubs, was really difficult, because those songs I road test. So before I release a song, for example, like Body Funk or Dished, both songs just started as mashups. So I had never the idea to release Body Funk as a singer. It started, I just mashed up two songs, The Hot Streak a cappella, and then The Cowbells from Sylvester, and then I produced a complete song around, and then I played the song on my DJ sets, and I realized this song is working really well. And then we cleared the samples, and we released it. Same on Dished. So everything starts as mash up songs for my sets. So this was, in the beginning, was quite complicated, as I finished the first songs for the album were more club songs, to not road test the songs. So I had to trust my feelings. And so I think it's working. I don't know, maybe the break is too long. I have no idea, because I can't road test. But all the songs I wrote, maybe is also a reason why I started writing more pop songs, because I knew, okay, I don't play the next 5, 6, 7 months. I can't play the songs anyway I produce. So let's do something different. And I started producing more pop songs. I mean, Hypnotized was produced way before the first lockdown. Fireworks was produced way before the lockdown. But most of the maybe more down tempo and pop songs on the album were produced during the lockdown. And with those songs, I never felt I can't road test them. So I was I just trusted my experience from the last 20 years and tried to put all the energy in my music.
Yeah. And the, you mentioned a few of the singles there that have already been released. Do you have a particular favorite track on the album that you're like super, super proud of, or are you just happy that it's all come together and it's finally getting out there?
Of course, there are a few songs I really like. I mean, as a musician, you like the newest songs most. So all the songs I wrote 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't like them anymore because I listened to them so many times. So that's why I can't say. I mean, I've Hypnotized opened again so many doors, and I'm still in love with the song because for me the song is so timeless and classic. But of course, there are songs I still listen a lot to the song from the album. It's mostly the new songs. The song I wrote just a few months ago or finished a few months ago. For example, At the Disco is one of those songs I wrote with Lawrence Roder because he's a close friend and we produce music together since many years, and it's just working with him in his studio is so intense and so productive and so inspiring that he's one of the best musicians I've ever met. He's so quick and so good with his hands. Is unbelievable. So yeah, At the Disco and Money Money is another song. Shows more my love for Prince and this kind of decade. And it's a new experience to produce songs with more like a song structure with verse and chorus and middle eight parts. It's a new thing, but I really love it. So I really like it.
Good. Yeah, no, it's always good to learn and change your ways of working and do different things and not do the same thing over and over. It's, how you grow as an artist, definitely. I mean, your remixes as well. I mean, you've done some great work with a whole variety of different artists, and you've also remixed some absolute classics like Shakedowns at Night and Fatboy Slim's Praise You. I mean, how do you approach remixing what is generally seen as classic tracks? I mean, is it daunting? What are you trying to bring to them when you take on something like that?
I get so many requests to remix classics. So for me to say yes or to go for it is I need to have a connection to the song. Shakedown at Night was one of those songs in the mid noughties, really important for me. I was I was playing this song. I think it was the Kid Cream remix. I was playing over and over and over. So it was a great song. And then the same with Fatboy Slim, Praise You. Fatboy Slim is the first album. The second one, I mean, it's a different sound. It was kind of big beat, but I just loved it. His way to sample music. And so I was obsessed, and Praise You was one of my all-time favorites. That's why, I mean, the story about Praise You is also different because, Fatboy Slim did a remix for Devil and Me, and we agreed to more like a remix swap. And he said, okay. And then we got the request to remix Fatboy Slim. I think one of his newer releases. I said, yeah. I don't know. I love the song, but I can't see me remixing this song, and I want to remix Praise You. And they, sorry, no Praise You. We don't plan any Praise You re-releases or anniversary releases, or it's just, I mean, we did so many remixes. So sorry, then it's not. And then I think 3 months later, I asked my manager, can we ask again if I can do Praise You? And then I think we did it 10 times. And I think at the end, they were so annoyed. So, okay, fuck it. Just send this guy the stems and see what happens. And yeah, then I got the stems and I did the remix and everyone loved it. And then I said, okay, now we have a great remix, but we still don't have an idea why we should release it because we don't plan to release this. We don't have a label. Skinned didn't want to do it and said, okay, let's reach out to Defected because we work really close together with Defected. And so this how everything how we came up with the remix. So it was like I was really insisting. I said maybe I was a bit annoying, I don't know, but I try to say, okay, no, I don't want to remix anything, just Praise You, because for me, I mean, he's a legend. His early work is so good, and Praise You is one of those outstanding songs. And I thought, okay, if then just this, nothing else. And but I mean, for me, the approach doing a remix is, like I said, I need to like the original, and I don't want to create a completely new sound. For me, I just try to be as close as possible to the original, just to catch the original vibe, the original feeling, and turn this into a more Purple Disco Machine, more funky disco groovy kind of sound. And that's what I did with Praise You, or with Shakedown, or with Lady Gaga's song. So I just thinking how I would play, or what I would play as a DJ, what kind of version of this song I would play as a DJ. And then it's actually the same what Lenny Levin was doing ages ago. So he was also this kind of doing DJ versions of extended version, or what Dimitri from Paris is doing. So kind of DJ extended dub versions of songs.
Yeah, instead of having to do it live with 2 versions of the track or whatever. It's great to inject that,
and just focus on the most important parts of the song. So I mean, that's what I'm doing. So just to focus on the important parts. If it's just the chorus and the verse isn't really working on the dance floor, then I just keep the chorus and trying to do more and more a dubby version. So it really depends on this song.
And like he has been, Fatboy Slim, he has been playing it in his recent mixtapes that he's been playing in his recent gigs, so that's the ultimate stamp of approval, I'd imagine, hearing
he obviously liked the song. So I mean, we met a couple of times, and I really appreciate that I did the remix. And so I mean, he's a legend, so it's just unbelievable.
I mean, I have interviewed him for this podcast, and been sat around his house, and it was very, very hard not to like completely just freak out that this whole thing was kind of happening at that moment. So the guy is an absolute legend,
and he's a really nice guy, really humble and polite and nice. He's not this kind of egoish, arrogant idiot. So he's really nice and smart.
Such a good guy. And well, I mean, you mentioned there as well Defected and Lady Gaga as well. I mean, there were some over lockdown, some like live stream events you put out on your own YouTube channel as well, and you did some like a live streaming gig for Lady Gaga and her fans as well, and the Defected Festival and all of those things. How did you find doing those live streams, and do you think that is going to be another element of clubbing for the future, or just a side effect of COVID at the time?
I mean, knowing that I'm scared to stay in front of real people, so I really liked it, to be honest. I felt really comfortable, just me in my studio, listening to the music I love. Now, but kidding. I mean, 20 years later, now I played so many shows, and I know what I'm good in. So I really love to play in front of real crowd and see the smile in the faces, to get the energy back. Because I mean, all the energy I put in my songs, I usually get the energy back over the weekends when I play the songs, and I can see the reaction. And I get so many people tell me so many stories that they got over difficult times because of my music. And so it's just, this helps me keep doing what I do. So but then ending up doing live streams in a studio without any emotions, with no crowd, no people, felt a bit strange and odd in the beginning. So I wasn't the biggest fan. So it took me a while. I had to convince myself to do it, because in the beginning I said, no, I don't want to do it. I mean, my whole Instagram was full of live streams in the beginning. Everyone found out, okay, it's a way to stay connected with the people. And but then I got so many requests from fans. So many fans wrote me when I do my first, and said, okay, let's do something. I don't want to collaborate with brands just to make money. I said, okay, if we do it, then I will do it for free on my own channel, not over Twitch where the people have to donate or pay. I just do it on my channels, accessible for everyone. And then we started this Sunday sessions, and it worked really well. So and I really enjoyed it, because it was Sunday afternoon. I had finally a reason to get out of my four walls, to go to the studio, to do something. Yeah, and to also it kept me digging for new music, listening to demos, and not just say, I mean, I don't have any shows, so why I should listen to new music or so. It was really inspiring. I went through my record collection, my vinyl collection. So because I decided to do the first sunset sessions just vinyl only. So I went through my collection and was playing just my favorite disco songs on vinyl. Vinyl only sets I usually can't do anymore because I'm too lazy to carry all my stuff with me. So that's why it was a good thing to do it at home. And yeah, it was really cool. It was really nice to feel they had the haptic of playing vinyl again, to playing on a turntable, to feel the vinyl, to smell it. And it was really good. So I really enjoyed it. But after a while, it was like, I just can't wait to play in front of real people. So let's stop this and just wait till normal life comes back.
Well, it's coming. Yeah, hopefully it'll be coming.
Finally.
And what are you most excited about this new reopening of the world? Is it traveling again, or just getting being in front of a crowd, or getting your album out there?
Actually, everything. So I mean, before it was like even the smell of the airport, I just hated it. Traveling was so. I mean, I was the last years before the pandemic started. I was on tour like 150, 200 days a year, and traveling was just too much. And I had also this kind of experience. I mean, a lot of people talking of mental health, and especially in the music industry, I think we should talk about more often, because I know so many DJs who's struggling a lot. Because I mean, I don't felt any pressure. I think it was just me who just thought, okay, I have to take all the festival requests. I have to play everything. And so I had this moment in 2000, it was end of 2018. I think I was in Mexico, and I just remember I was really down. I got a bit depressed, and it doesn't felt like joy anymore. It felt like hard work, and I couldn't enjoy the tour anymore. This was a problem. I said, okay, I was again on a point of my life, like as I stopped the first project. Okay, I'm again here, and I feel I can't enjoy this anymore. I'm just rushing from one show to another. Every time I'm on tour, I was just missing my family. I was missing my kids, my wife. When I went back home for 2 or 3 days, I couldn't really enjoy the time because I was planning the next tour already, or we were working, or I had to go to the studio, or I had appointment here, appointment there. So it was like I could neither enjoy touring because I was with my mind, I was at home. But when I was at home, I couldn't also enjoy home because I was in my mind, I was planning the business again and talking about the next. So it was just horrible, and I got really depressed. And I said, okay, I have to stop this. And I just called. I was sitting in Mexico, and says I had, I think, 2 or 3 more shows, and I never did it before, and I never did it afterwards. So and I called my travel agent and so sorry, I have to cancel this tour, and I've just booked me the next flight back home. And I drove to the airport, flew back home, and the moment I was entering the plane going back home, I felt so free. And so I just was, I don't know what it was, but I said, okay, now I'm going back home. No one knows that I'm coming. I think I will surprise my family. Hopefully it's going well. So, I mean, a surprise in this way can be difficult anyway. But so, okay, then I had a really long chat, and I had a death with my ear as well. So I was really had issues with tinnitus and stuff like this. So and I had a really long conversation with the agency, and I found out that actually no one took me on bread, or no one said I have to play all of those shows. Everyone, I mean, my booking agent is having kids, my manager Matt is having kids, so everyone understood the situation, that I just can't handle my private life and the business life anymore. And
Yeah.
I have to change things. And then and then from 2019 onwards, we decided to balance everything a bit better. I took 1 month, one weekend off every month. I didn't play any show, just 2-3 shows maximum a week. I didn't play tours for 2 weeks in a row. I said, okay, just 6 days in a row away from home. And so from this day on, I felt really better. So my health got better. The relationship to my wife and of course to my kids as well got better. And then and then the pandemic were hitting us. So and then from one day to another, I was completely at home.
Yeah, I mean, to have that strength of choice and character, like you say, in Mexico, and be like, right, I just get me out of here, and then to have that reaction on the plane, to feel good about it, that's obviously the best decision that you made. And then I think this whole pandemic has afforded so many artists and creatives and people that are on a kind of a treadmill just to kind of reset, take stock, and now we're going to reapproach kind of a new world and a different world, to really look after yourself and be mindful of what you've got coming up in your diary and everything. It sounds like you're already there with that.
Definitely. And that's why, coming back to your question now, I can really again enjoy playing shows. So I still say, okay, I don't play more than 3 shows in a row. I don't go on tour for more than 6 days. I have weekends off in between. I can enjoy and still after even after 1.5 years at home, I just can't see me going crazy and play all around the world every week. I mean, I would love to. I would love to go to Australia. It's such a long time ago that I played my last Australia tour. I would love to go there. I would love to go back to Asia. Next month, I finally go back to the States to play there, and then in November to South America. So I just can't wait to play shows again. And so I can say I really, really enjoy shows now again. And this is the most important thing for me. I can now enjoy my life at home. I can enjoy the time with my family, the quality time, but I can be in the moment. That was the biggest problem. I was never in the moment. I was always somewhere else. And now I'm still learning. I think it's still a long way to go, but I'm way better in being in the moment, just enjoying the moment. Don't thinking about what's next. Just stay in the moment. And this is what I learned on tour when I play my shows. Being in the moment, just enjoy the music, the connection to the people, but also when I be with my family to enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I mean, and to have that understanding, the power of now. There's nothing more powerful than that, and being mindful and in the moment. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we have been talking a while now, so I want to move on to our playlist that we have on Spotify.
Yeah, sure.
Our perfect playlist. It's a playlist that every single person we've spoken to has submitted 5 tracks based on different themes, and I think the playlist is now it's over 24 hours long, I think. So it's a massive beast, and it's got some amazing choices in there and new discoveries for our listeners. And I want to talk to you about what your choices are. And we always start off with a catalyst, and we have kind of talked a little bit about these artists and this album in particular. Obviously, you've chosen Daft Punk specifically. Have you got anything more to say about that particular track and why it's important to you as a catalyst?
I mean, I just love the whole Homework album, but this song, Da Funk, was one of those songs who just stuck on my mind. So I was so obsessed from this song. Of course, Around the World and Music, or those songs were also pretty inspiring. But I don't know what the funk was like, and the video as well. The video was just. I mean, there are not so many music videos I still remember, and so and this is one of those really outstanding songs.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Okay, so your next choice, we talk about a floor filler. And can you remember what you've chosen, or do you want me to remind you?
Yeah, but I think body funk.
Body Funk, yeah, your own
Because
track.
yeah, it's like I mentioned before. So
Mm.
flow filler means yeah, I was starting body funk as a mashup, and I realized when I played this mashup way before it turned into body funk at the Purple Disco Machine release, it was the floor filler. So it was one of the key songs then in my sets, and a song everyone wanted to listen to and everyone was requesting. So this why this one became one of my key songs in the sets at that time.
Yeah, I mean that Hot Streak sample is just like a call to arms.
Yeah,
Get on the dance floor. It's
definitely.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, a sunsetter. You've chosen Inspector Norse.
Yeah, I'm big fan of Totesh and his music, his way to produce music. I mean, he's also producing just on vintage synths, and he's got this really unique vibe. It's kind of this kind of Scandinavian jazzy vibe. So, and and I really appreciate musicians who have found his own path and doing just unique music and don't following any hypes, and that's
Yeah.
what I also like on his music. And Inspector Norse is one of those songs. I think it's the song with the best arrangement and dramaturgy. It goes always up, and then you have those chord changes with just goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
And this ARP appreciator is good. The drums are on point, so it's a perfect song.
Yeah, great. Okay, a tearjerker for you. You've already spoken about this artist.
It's In the Air Tonight. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like it's also what I mentioned, my first concert with my parents, and I can't remember that much from the concert because it was too many things and going on this day. But what I remember was In the Air Tonight, and it was like the the arena was like, the stage was like a circle, and he was just walking around, and then on the top was the drums, and then he walked up to the top, and then he played his iconic drum solo. And this song is still so important. Every time I listen to the song, or song is on the radio, I just turn it louder, and then I still, in this moment when I was 13 or 14, on the shoulder of my dad singing the song, and I was really into this drum fills. I think that the most or the reason why is because at that time we didn't spoke any English, so I didn't understood the lyrics. So that's why for me it was just singing nonsense. That's why I was just focused on the instrumentals, on the keys, on the drums and everything. So that's why I was so obsessed from his drum solos. And for me, he's one of the best. He isn't one of the best singers, but definitely one of the best drummers in the world.
Yeah, no, like that drum fill is completely iconic. And you just describing that gig experience there, it just gave me a shiver hearing that description. It was, sounds incredible.
Definitely.
Okay, a last tune. The crowd are asking for one more. What do you play?
It's Lionel Richie, All Night Long. It's like it feels like an encore. So in I think for like 2-3 years, I played this song on the festivals, outside, sunset, or what else, as a last song, because I really like to end my set with a groovy, easy listening song, not too stressful, not too powerful. And this is the perfect song. Everyone knows, everyone can sing along with a perfect groove, a perfect vibe. And so this is for me the perfect ending of my set.
Yeah, it's perfect. And the way it eases you into that, I love the opening of it, and then it all kicks off. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we have one final question before we wrap this up, and that is, obviously, thank you for joining us. We are House Culture, and you are part of the house culture, part of the scene. You've been in it for a number of years under different names, and you've produced iconic albums, tracks. You've been super successful. Aside from that, what else has the culture of the scene brought to you in your life, and what does it really mean to you when you look at what you've achieved? How do you sum it all up?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the best thing every week and when I'm on tour is when I realize the music is what brings everyone together, black and white, all kinds of religion. So no one cares on the dance floor. No one cares who the guy next to you is. So it connects music, and the most important thing is just the music. We share just one passion for music, and everyone is equal. So this is the most important thing, and this is also something what makes me happy every week. And when I travel around the world and see that people just want to share the same passion for music together on the dance floor, and this is something which connects everyone.
That is the perfect final thought, I think, to end on. That is exactly why we all get on that dance floor.
Thanks for having me again. Yeah, it was a nice thing to chat. Have a nice day, and cheers. Bye bye.
House culture.
Okay, guys, I mean, wow, what an absolute privilege it was to have just spent the last hour and a bit in the company of a genuine house music superstar. I love that one. I want to personally thank Tino and the Purple Disco Machine team for making that happen. Wasn't it fascinating to hear how he's gone from being a ghost producer, a resident DJ, a radio creative, via primary school teaching to the mega club and festival stages of the world? He has certainly paid his dues and deserves all the plaudits that his new album Exotica is currently receiving. Make sure you check that out, as it contains many future anthems that I'm sure you'll be hearing for years. And whilst you're over on Spotify, make sure you start following the House Culture Perfect playlist, where you can find all of the choices from our previous podcast guests, as well as Purple Disco Machine's Butte submissions. Just fire up your Spotify player, search for House Culture Perfect playlist, and prepare yourself for an onslaught of epic tunage from which you cannot escape. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to love, like, tweet and share, as well as leave us a rating or review on Apple. We love hearing from you and are always happy to share your kind words with the rest of our listeners. This time around, I'm giving a huge shout out to Rebecca Hemsley Bauer, who said that our podcasts have kept her going whilst in lockdown in Ibiza. Well, Rebecca, we in the House Culture crew are happy to have made an impact in your world and helped you through the difficult time we've all faced. Make sure to spread the word and stay tuned for those new episodes. And if you want to join our party at House Culture, please hit up our Instagram feed at houseculture.net or follow the hashtag #TrueHouseCulture. Ours is a place that is a massive community that will not only keep you up to date with news on when season 4 of the podcast will launch, but will also connect you with other beat lovers from across the world. And finally, if you want to get in touch with me, Matt Rouse, you can do it directly on Instagram at DJ Matt Rouse. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and see you in the new year.
House culture.